So, Senator, if you were to wade into the conversation between the SGF and the current National Assembly, especially the Senate, would you advise that he should have said that constituency projects were unconstitutional? I mean, he would be right, wouldn't he, from the explanation that you've given so far?
Well, in a way, because this was not ab initio stated or expressly stated in the Constitution. A person can come out and say it is not in the Constitution, it's not mandatory. But if it's the discussion between the SGF and the senators, the approach should have been different, because obviously this discussion had not been tabled. These are things that, you know, we need to iron them out. We need to know the best practices. We need to bring the experts in to come and actually resolve it, because problems always arise from our preparation. Now, the SGF understands that there is no money to execute most of the projects in the budget, in this 2016 budget. We all know there is no money. We are not able to produce. And of course, even though the benchmark at 38 is still manageable now, but we are not producing 50% of what we had initially thought we would be producing when the budget was being put in place. Now, it would have approached them that there is no money to execute this project. And this is the percentage we can execute. If it is 10%, if it's 20%. Because I believe that is going on in all the MDAs as we speak. There is no money. That is the simple fact. And but it should not, yes, it should not have gone from the perspective of legality or no illegality, because that has been the norm. And of course, there is nothing.
Senator, so that I don't put words in his mouth. His response wasn't that, you know, it was unconstitutional. The SGF did not say that. He did say that there was no money to execute the constituency project. That was his response. But some people believe that he should simply have hit the nail on the head and said, this is unconstitutional. Is this something that you would have advised?
No, because that would strategically be faulty, because you are talking of the National Assembly. These are the people who go into every year to do appropriation. And the constituency project is very, very sensitive, very, very to every legislator. Because somehow, genuinely or otherwise, it's a show that, okay, I've come back to you. You send me to the National Assembly, this is what I've come back to give to you, to this constituency. And everybody wants to show something. But it's the wrong approach. We need to educate the voters. We need to educate our people. We are to be there to make laws for the good governance.
I get your point. Yes. But don't you also think that the education should also be for the National Assembly members, so that at least they know how to liaise? Maybe if you have a project that you're interested in bringing to your constituents, you can liaise with the governor of your state and say, I want you to input this in the budget. Or if it's a national issue, you say, okay, let's talk to maybe the Ministry of X, Y, and Z, maybe roads, infrastructure, agriculture, and suggest some other things that will benefit your people. That should be it. You lobby them in making sure that they put that in the budget.
Oh yes, it's important that the executive works with the legislature on these issues. There is no question about it, because the president cannot be everywhere. So you have the legislators being the representatives, they are the closest to the grassroots. So in discussing the budget, you need to tell the executive, the MDs. In the US, there are about 12 subcommittees under the appropriation, both in the Senate and in the House of Rep. Each one, you look, the defense has a subcommittee, education, judiciary, all of them. Now you go there, discuss. This is what my people are looking for. And every senator belongs somehow in one of the subcommittees. So you can say exactly what exactly you want. And the executive will execute it under the laws that governs procurement. And if that is done, I don't think there is nobody. I mean, there's anyone that will be querying the fact that you have gone to the Senate or to the House of Rep to say you want roads started in your community, or you want dams made, or there is nothing that concerns the federal government about some of the local things that we're doing there. And you look at the follow-up is the major setback. Who now runs this thing? I've been out of the Senate now, this is the 5th year. Do I want to start sweating and start funding an ICT center? It's not possible. I won't have the money. I don't have the money.
But before then, senators and lawmakers, they had access to a lot of money. So why didn't they use those funds that they had to execute some of those projects?
Well, I cannot, for my own example, in terms of buying motorcycles, generators for my constituency people, I did it from my money. That was never anything in terms of constituency project.
That wouldn't help?
No, I did that. I executed that with what I had.
Okay, because the reason why they embark on this project, and correct me if I'm wrong, is such that they're almost, in a manner of speaking, their political life depended on that. Whether or not they were going to be re-elected into the assembly, so they have to be seen to be doing something for their constituency. That's why they do it. In many cases.
Really, it does not have to be that alone.
Yeah, but that's part of the...
People just sit down and they talk to the MDs for employment. That may make more money. Influence, you peddle influence. I mean, the last president, I had to lobby him to cite a federal university in my village.
You know, when you talk about education...
That is lobbying.
Sorry to come in here, Senator Richie. When you spoke about education, and I said that education should also be for the legislators.
Sure.
Let's look at during their electioneering campaign. Shouldn't they stop telling people that I will fix road, I will give you school, I will
because they're not governors.
When you know you're not in the going to be into the executive arm of
that
government.
was never in any of my campaign. The things.
So you see, some of them, many of them, that's what they say to the people.
Well, you need to educate the voters, and those were people just coming in because maybe they today understand what was going on there. But now that they're members, we are supposed to be lawmakers. We cannot execute any project, but we can influence. I will tell anybody that when you come to us, okay, I will talk to somebody if they can do it. This is the person that has the powers. The ministers, in terms of execution of projects, are a lot more relevant. They are a lot more powerful than the legislature. But you must approve that budget. You see, without necessarily going vindictive, if the president brings a budget, the National Assembly has the right to say this particular project, we don't want it this year. And they can put zero budget there. But they cannot create their own subheads and say, this is where I want to put money. No. But they have that power to approve or disapprove. Well, they have the power of variation.
Senator,
yes,
I've got Aribi Salah, pardon me, Makwe, I've got Aribi Salah here who says, Aribi Salah says, the constituency project is illegal. And he goes on to say, the ICT center that you built in his local government is empty and overgrown with bush. He thinks they should scrap the project.
That is exactly correct, because if you don't have those who would maintain those structures, where do you need it?
So that's a waste now.
Certainly, at the end of the day. So that is where our focus must shift, and I support the debate that's going on.
Should they scrap this?
Invariably, that's what it's going to end up. That's the way it's going to end up. The constituency projects will now be a part of the executive budget. Okay. It's not going to be separate anymore.
I think Makwe is trying to come in here. Makwe?
Largely, I think that you already put in that question in terms of whether or not it should be scrapped. But if you look at the process initially, I mean, from what Senator Arishe has described, he said that they were asked by the Appropriation Committee in the Senate. Should that have been the process, if at all, you're going to be having this conversation with the executive arm of government? Should it be done through the Appropriation Committee, or should that conversation have happened with senators and the Budget Office? Why is the Appropriation Committee the one asking for senators to bring in their inputs.
Okay. Now, the appropriation committee is the one in charge of appropriation in the Senate and the House of Reps as well. Now, for you to interface with the executive, it has to be either through the chairman of the committee or through the committee that is responsible for the MDA. The appropriation committee is the one in charge of anything to do with appropriating money for projects. So it's normal. Sometimes the chairman of maybe Agric would ask you, oh, we have a few things going into this budget this year. Do you have anything in mind? So you submit and discuss the way you want to spend or allocate your portion of the constituency project funding. And of course, with that, they will now discuss with the budgeting office and say, this is where you have, this where you have. And of course, you know there is a conference between the two houses at the end of the day. So it's not every senator or every House of Rep member that will participate in that process. That is not the issue. The most important thing now is that can we afford, even as the National Assembly, to start giving the impression that this constituency project is just for us to make money. That's the impression that everybody's is getting.
The debate will be on for a while, and I'm sure we'll have another opportunity to have a second bite at this. But Senator, we have to thank you for coming on today. Senator Oyerisha is the former chairman, Senate Committee on Privatization. We will be back in a moment. Please join us again.